right, so before I say anything first, all those bloggers were post that time.
So help us understand, how come the presidential airfleet gets priority funding and ministries as critical as defense do not get their funding?
Okay, condolences to the family of the general. I think General Momo, a fine specimen of a man who lost his life in the war front. From the story I've read so far, seems like there was a local sabotage. It's unfortunate, but on the war front, it's difficult to know who to trust and so on. Of course, a lot of work can be done on that, However, in mentioning spending for the Ministry of Defense versus presidential airfleet, what you have done is compare apples and oranges. The spending on presidential airfleet is recurrent spending, whereas you mentioned that Nigeria Army couldn't buy equipment, more than 7% not more than 7% was spent. Now, the thing with the equipment, or the capital equipment for the Army that you mentioned is a capital spending, and in the year 2024, in the year 2025, it was 2024 capital that was spent. Now, remember, I said that because there was a transition in May 29, 2023, there was an overlap to ensure that the Buhari budget ran before the Tinubu budget began to kick in. And that has created this overlap, even though it took Buhari government 5 years to be able to get into that budget cycle. And even in Jonathan era, with Minister Okonjo-Iweala, who is a very astute person, they couldn't get that done. So now we know that we would, but however, beyond the aesthetics and the elegance of having a January to December budget, what's more important is that whatever is spent actually is accounted for, number one, and secondly, that it actually gets and trickles down to the people and matters to the people. So the same thing happened for the health sector. In the year 2025, yes, Minister Pate said he only got 36 million for capital for 2025. But in 2025, they spent capital for 2024. Now, the whole idea is to ensure that one budget finishes before another one kicks in, because it's a law. And I'm saying that whereas the situation is not perfect for now, we're looking at it's beginning to get better. So rather than 3 budgets running, as of last year, we have 2 now to terminate in June. Hopefully it terminates in June. And then we'll have only 1 budget. And then we run with that. So we cannot compare the recurrent spending on presidential airfleet, which is, oh, they want fuel. Things like they want fuel or they want a quick repair. It's different from buying a new aircraft, or people want to travel and they need whatever, to allowances to travel, the pilot and all of that. That is what gets spent in that report that you have seen, and not capital spending. So whereas I'm not saying that things are perfect, but I'm saying that things are improving.
Are you saying,
and we're going to get better with some of these things.
Are you saying that recurrent spending for the presidential airfleet is more important than critical spending for equipment for the Ministry of Defense? Because the presidential airfleet takes care of the president's many visits outside the country. Are you saying that some of the time such things cannot wait for critical spending for the Ministry of Defense?
Buki, you have put it yourself. You're trying to sensationalize it.
I'm not sensational. I'm putting out the facts.
That's your prerogative. That's your prerogative. You can't tell what's more important. I can't say whether you are more important than Kayode Okikiolu or whether you are more important than Jeff.
They're absolutely not the same.
That's a rhetorical question.
The Ministry of Defense.
Let me say this.
Mr. Fasua, the Ministry of Defense is critical to the survival, to the lives of Nigerians, to communities that are constantly facing attacks. So are you saying that the presidential fleet is more important than the Ministry of Defense?
I said it's an illogical question, which
it's a very logical question, sir.
I would try to oblige you by answering it, but it's an illogical question. Again, you're comparing apples and oranges.
No, that is a wrong comparison, sir. We're talking about the presidential fleet for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as against the lives that he has sworn to protect.
I'll let you have the last word on it. I'll let you have the last word.
No, it's not the last word.
My opinion is this. My opinion.
It's a contention on what you consider logical and illogical. And you're on record,
number
sir.
One, I don't run the budget. I don't run the finance. I don't run the budget. But I can only explain to you that, you know, you cannot stop fueling an aircraft mid-air. You know, you can't do that. You can't fail to service an aircraft. You can't fail to pay the pilots and the crew their money to run their operations. That is recurrent. Of course, everybody agrees that recurrent is easier to disburse than capital. Capital has to go through a process. And nobody has said that. The defense sector has not been funded. I'm just saying that there was a rollover that in 2024, in 2024 capital was spent for the defense sector, for the health sector, and other sectors.
All right.
And now, this year now, 2025 budget for capital will prioritize for those ministries before 2026 kicks in. But 2026 recurrent is already ongoing.
Well, Mr. Tope Fasua, we have to thank you for your time. Special advisor.
We're getting better.
Right. Special advisor to President Tinubu on economic affairs. Well, our role is to keep probing the issues and ensure that we put the feet of government to fire. We thank you for your time and we wish you the very best.
Thanks for the fire at my feet right now.
Well.